Good day, everybody. Hopefully, this is going to be a pleasant meeting for all of us. This is my 17th meeting, and I have previously attended 16 of them. I think that it was either the 12th or that's the 13th one, under the auspices of TOB, organized by the Ministry of Industry, because I was also undertaking a post in the ministry at the time. I had to attend that meeting as well, and I was wondering as to how I was going to make it to that meeting, the SteelOrbis meetings. Otherwise, I give great importance to that, but because of my now I see that talk facility has been opened up, production lines are operating, so hopefully the annual production target of 175,000 will be met, which is going to be an extra 80 to 100,000 tons of steel required. Each investment carried out in the production area is vital for the Turkish steel industry indeed. Well, I've been in the sector for 25 years. Within these 25 years, in 2008, we had extraordinary challenges at the time. Prices surged up to 1,500 and then went rock bottom to 375. Scrap went up to 750 and then dropped down to $130. And people who were in stock had to pay really the cost for it. And then we had the pandemic, of course. These are totally different things from each other. I mean, the 2008 was a different phenomenon. There were bankruptcies going on across the world, and objective mechanisms in the United States, 600 to 700 billion dollars of Lehman Brothers bankruptcy was the case. And then we had the pandemic. So, of course, now we're into a new phenomenon which we haven't experienced before for 2022. We were working on really positive scenarios, and then Russia invaded Ukraine. And then, first of all, it was not foreseen indeed. We thought that it would fade away really in a short period of time, but still it is ongoing, this conflict, and nobody knows as to when it will end, and we are facing the negative impact of it. Of course, this has its reflections on our numbers as well. As you see in this slide, this is the gross domestic production, which is the first half numbers. So now we will have the third quarter numbers as well. Well, I was wondering whether it had been announced maybe at 10 o'clock it would have been published, but it is going to be 3.5 to 4%. And by the end of the year, although there are different forecasts, between 5 to 5.3. In the midterm plan, it is 5%, and according to the World Bank, there are different forecasts. But I mean, this year we're going to be calling off for the year as 5%. So this steel sector, this 5%, mostly, I mean, the gross GDP and production and consumption used to go hand in hand. They used to be parallel to each other, but there is an extraordinary situation now in the steel sector, which is that consumption and production do not go hand in hand this year. So looking at the numbers here, China, we see that in their production there is a slowdown, which is actually a general slowdown when it comes to world steel production. But compared to the numbers in the beginning of the year, we see that we are down to 2.5%, which means in the world steel sectors, in the beginning of the year, we were at a better off situation in the first 5 months of the year. We were a couple of points better than the world sectors, but now the production and consumption numbers across the world go back to the previous years. But now in production, we have experienced a decline of more than 10%. In 2021 in Turkey, as you all know, we were ranked the 7th. Now we are ranked the 8th, following Germany. And we've got approximately less than 1 million ton, no, 1,200,000 tons of difference between us and Germany. Germany was 400,000 tons less than us in production in the previous year. And the worst is that Brazil and Iran in the recent months have taken over Turkey. Looking at these numbers, with Iran in 2021, for instance, we had 33 million and Iran had 23 million tons, which was a difference of 10 million tons in production in the first 10 months of 2021. But Iran has started producing steel more than Turkey for the last couple of months. Of course, this performance of Iran, just like our for instance, Russia's performance, we see that governmental support is really essential here. And also, they've got comparative advantage. I mean, because of energy, we have to pay high cost, but they do not have to bear this high cost of energy because they've got their own natural resources, natural ore, for instance. For that reason, they're in a better off situation compared to Turkey. In the world steel sectors, here we see the production and the capacity utilization. Capacity utilization rate in 2021 was up to 80% across the world, while in integrated facilities, full capacity utilization is possible. But with others, I haven't seen at all full capacity usage. So going up to 80%, let's call that 85% to be more realistic indeed, because here the world steel industry, mostly the facilities are integrated facilities. So 85% of them were working with full capacity. So in 2021, actually, the world steel industry almost worked with full capacity. In 2017, for instance, the capacity utilization was 81%, and retrospectively, there is also an 85% of capacity usage. And in Turkey, it was 75.2%. There were some years whereby we also shot up to 82% of capacity utilization, but the 75.2%, there are 77%, for instance, here in this chart. So our capacity utilization rate seems to be promising when we compare ourselves against other countries. Looking at our production numbers, Turkey's production approximately in the first 10 months, we see that there is a decline. We do believe that in the upcoming months, the realized numbers will more or less be the same. It's because, as of July, we have been seeing major declines in our production. There is a production decline of approximately 20%. And in the first half, we had actually been growing by like 3%, 4% of decline. And now with that 20% of decline, we see that the average is 10% decline. So in the last 2 months, actually, we do foresee a 1 or 2% of a further decline. But we do not see too much of a downturn in the last 2 months of the year. The fundamental reason for this production decline is the energy increase that became effective in July and August, both in natural gas and in electricity, which soared our energy prices. Our overall energy costs increased. The energy cost share in the overall production cost increased from 8.1 to 28%. Of course, overnight, these costs increasing overnight cannot be bared. if we had been informed beforehand, if we had done our pricing beforehand, it could have been better. But overnight, all of a sudden, we actually are caught by this huge surge in energy prices, and we cannot reflect this in our prices. We know, everybody knows that we don't operate with a high margin anyways. So external people could say we're in a better situation and that we could be reflecting those increases immediately on our prices. But no, that is not the case. Sometimes we have to bear the increase in cost ourselves out of pocket, and we cannot improve our margins accordingly. So while trying to, for instance, or else rescue, say, one institution, for instance, there are 600 people here. They are the representatives of 60,000 people, indeed. So not only steel producers, but others, rolling facilities, for instance, all these sort of facilities. Keeping up with this high energy surge is impossible because potash does not only supply natural gas to industry, but also to households. And actually, potash, which is a natural gas supplier, they compared to industry, it's 1 to the 6 actually. They are providing the natural gas for a much cheaper price to household. But industry is consuming a lot of energy. So industry being urged to compensate the low provision of natural gas for the household is not logical. For instance, in Turgut Özal's time, for instance, he used to say, if there is a need, okay, let's tap into this fund, let's use these kind of resources. They were all out of budget. They were not measured, they were not calculated, and it is not calculated as to those compensators, for instance. We don't know their capacity. So now it's the same case in Turkey. As a taxpayer in Turkey, our production is this much. I make profits this much, and I pay this much of tax, and I pay the rest for my investment. We cannot do such a proper plan because, I mean, people assume around their working desk that you are in a good situation financially and that you can compensate the cost of the household natural gas by as an industrialist, for instance. This is not logical. This is not appropriate. We went up to them and we said that no, we are not in a good situation. And in the ministry said that, well, no, we thought that you were in a good situation financially and that you could compensate the surging costs. No, we said we don't have that margin to compensate the household natural gas being compensated by us because is, I mean, impossible. And this is a crisis which we have faced for the first time. I mean, this is a first of a kind experience for us. Of course, experience, if we gain this experience by paying this huge cost, then it wouldn't be appropriate for us. It is not fair for us. I mean, we should have a more civilized stance in that respect and approach concerning the industry, I guess. So as I said, from 80%, the capacity utilization dropped down to 75, and for us, we decreased from 75 to 66. They reduced the capacity utilization reduced by 6% across the world, and the reduction in our country is down to 9%. In terms of capacity utilization, which is more drastic compared to the rest of the world. This 66.4% is the 10-year capacity utilization, by the way. It's the average. So in the recent months, actually, the capacity utilization is down to even 59% in our country. And in the upcoming months, this 59% is, we do anticipate that it could go down to 58, and the average would remain could go from 1 or 2 points below 66%, but would remain there, would stagnate there, because this capacity to be used in low cost would actually then surge our overall production cost and would lessen our competition advantage powers. and we went to the Ministry of Energy and talked about these matters with them. Now, you want us to compensate these costs, carry these costs, but we cannot. Our production has gone down by 20% for the last 5 months. So when we do not, when our production is reduced, then energy consumption is reduced. Then your revenue would reduce accordingly. So we explained to the ministry, and that would negatively impact your program. So we explained to the ministry, instead of that, if you were to provide us electricity with more convenient prices and that we would carry on with our production and generate revenue for you, wouldn't that be more logical? So we explained to the ministry. So you just want to yes, they said we should be taking into account all these details. So they had said, and we are now expecting that the things that we have discussed will be considered by the ministry, and then they take the necessary action for these costs to be more appropriate, so that we carry on with our production. So, looking at the finished steel consumption, we see that the decline there is around about 2%, which could have been which could be improved. Well, Barış maybe could talk us through on that more in detail. And in our country, when it comes to finished steel production, it's around about 5 point. The reduction is 5.2%. We've got imported inputs as well, as you all know. So, of course, no matter what in the Turkish steel industry, our import carries on with the same levels. By the way, our exports in September 31%. In October, the decline is 37%. Because of the sharp decline in exports, of course, our production reduces in Turkey, and also because of the high energy cost, our production further decreases in our country. Well, and you see the Turkey's finished steel production by products and the decline, especially in 2022. We see that the decline is here more visible. And the reason for this is in the construction sector in the last 6 years, we see a decline, a shrinkage, just like it was seen in the first slide of my presentation. Next year, we anticipate that the construction sector will pick up. The government, of course, has to allocate a source for the construction sector to come back and gain power. Well, from time to time, construction sector investments were criticized harshly. Well, I do believe that we have to be prudent in our criticism in that respect, because the construction sector is not only to lay down steel and concrete there dully. Construction sectors has got 200 subsectors which generate revenue. I'm the member of the board of IMSAT, for instance. And if there is a construction, for instance, going on, it is not only steel and cement. There are the tiles used, the fixtures, for instance. More than 200 subsectors actually do enjoy. So the producers of fixtures, tiles, for instance, 30 to 40% of their materials they sell domestically to the construction going on in Turkey, and then the rest they start exporting to other countries. For instance, you see our fixtures, our tiles in hotels abroad. For instance, in Düzce, for instance, there is a tile factory. They sell products to construction sector in our country. Also, they export to 60 different countries, which actually livens up our economy. And unfortunately, the government in the previous years did not give the priority to the construction sector only for a year by keeping the mortgage interest rates low. They tried to boost the construction sectors, but that was not sufficient. So I do believe that the government is seeking for the construction sector to be supported. But this has to be sustainable, of course. The construction sectors, like in housing prices, for instance, there are extraordinary price surges. This is because of the lack of housing as well. So in order for this to balance out, offset itself, in the upcoming years, the construction sector should be supported. In Turkey, especially flat steel production, it is another source of problem for us. China, South Korea, Brazil, and India and UK. Their import has increased. China 90%, South Korea 47%, India 2.14%. India, well, actually, India, I mean, there was an increase of Indian imports by 100%, and then they levied a exports tax of 100% for goods from India to Turkey. But now they have backed up from that decision. So 600,000 tons of product is dumped from India to Turkey because they do not, no proper tax is levied. So China, Brazil, I mean, this is the similar case. 7-8 years ago, the whole world actually in 2015 was against China because their imports had gone up to 3 million, and then it actually stopped, and China said that they could not carry on like this. And then we started exporting to Far East countries, but now we see that there is a change in the balances. So we have to take a precaution in that respect. European Union is acting without minding us. Yes, we say that we're a stakeholder, we make a loss, and we thought that we could actually keep up with this dumping, but no, we said this situation actually urged us to raise our voice. So now we're working on this. So this is not a sustainable situation, these imports to our countries. We should definitely take an action in that respect.
Türkiye'nin ihracat ve ithalat.
Now let's have a look at the clear state of Turkey in terms of import and export. So this numbers, by the way, the 30th November is like this, but if it was tomorrow, today, there would be different results because we're going to be having the 12th month results afternoon. But here, as you can see, export and import matching rate has dropped significantly. And this is the trade with European Union countries. We can see similar developments in 2022. And this is export to USA. There is a good improvement. 980,000 tons were the last year's number. Why am I saying this is an improvement? Because in the previous years, it was much lower than this. For instance, in 2019, it was lower, way lower than this, but right now it's 558,000 tons. This is a modest improvement, but in the past it was 2 million tons. So from that level to this level, there was a drop. So a delegation from the USA came to Turkey, they talked about the sanctions, and then we have 30 stakeholders, they said. And with our stakeholders and partners, we would like to implement the sanctions, and we want Turkey to be our partners in terms of these sanctions implementations. And at the end, I told them that your explanations were quite nice, but when you say 30 stakeholders, 30 partners, this has come to my mind. 27 is from the EU and South Korea, England, and Japan, right? So, but you turn this protection sanctions into quota. So you improve their situations, like 70-80% of what they produce could be exported. But you are not behaving Turkey as you behave the other countries. Why you are not implementing this quota to us? What is the reason for this? You want us to assume some responsibilities, but on the other hand, we have our responsibilities. So how are we going to balance these responsibilities? I told them, and they said to me, yes, you are right, but we have to, do what we are supposed to do. So in the past, the USA was preventing us to export timber, and EU was free in terms of everything, but they said that it's like with the timber that we export, it's like there's going to be a nuclear power plant. They don't want us to have collaboration with Iran. Okay, that's okay, but you are bringing us burdens, and you don't want this timber to be sent to you as well. So there is double standard, actually. They think that their partners, Turkey specifically here, are not thinking anything. So in the past, we had better relations. I was working on the Secretariat of the Treasury. However, they were not behaving us like that in the past. So let's have a look at the export-import ratio. Like you can see, it's 95%. It could be dropped a little bit further, but it's going to improve later on. So this is Turkey's place in the world. We are the 6th biggest steel exporter in the world, but at the same time, we are the 5th biggest steel importer in spite of all this huge capacity. Maybe you are curious about that. I'd like to say that in the upcoming years, Turkey most probably will be outperforming Italy and will be the 4th biggest importer in the world. So in terms of importation, yes, we have come to a very nice point. 54 million tons is the capacity, and we have the 66% capacity utilization. So importation is very much improved. In the past, we were discussing we don't have capacity for the flat steel. That's why we were having importation. But right now, we can't produce. We have idle capacity, but still we make importation. I'm really curious. As of the next year, new 10 million capacity will be operational. So how are we going to be explaining this importation? Okay, let me give you the summary of the summary. Can I have a couple of minutes? Okay, perfect. Well, this is the situation that we are facing because of this energy crisis. Turkey and EU is different from other countries. We have a differentiated status. Yes, we are impacted by the implementations of Russia, but Russia is not, of course, affected by its own sanctions. So there has come to a price difference with Middle Eastern countries and Far Eastern countries. As of December, as of October, as of January, there's going to be some improvements in natural gas and electricity. We want this price difference to be balanced. And there is also something else about this FX. Foreign currency is under pressure. This is a wrong policy. Other sectors have also expressed this feeling. The Turkish Exporters Association has also mentioned that there is this current deficit, and the Turkish lira's having value, it's a luxury attitude because the FX is under pressure. We work with dollars, and the energy price in the all expenditures is increasing. If it was at a different FX policy, I think we would have a chance to balance the situation. So the scrap prices are low, and I'm not happy with that. So because when the scrap prices go down to these very lowest levels, it is very difficult for us to compete because this decreases our margins. The way of the scrap decreases in all the general expenditures, and it is creating a bottleneck for us. It is like $680 last year. It was the scrap prices. Again, last year, the freight prices, the container prices were increasing immensely. However, even in the circumstances, it was a profitable status for us. I think everyone should win. Steel sector and the world, we should win together. So for that reason, when we have a look at the drop in the freight prices, I don't think that this is a positive development. No, I don't think that this is advantageous. They should be at a reasonable price because the sharp declines show us that there is an imbalanced situation. So our sector doesn't want that, and other sectors don't also want these sharp declines. There should be a reasonable price balance. So while everything is going on the side, CBM, carbon taxation at border, and Green Deal, they have gained importance in 2022. There is also waste transportation. So scrap exportation to Turkey will be banned. Eurofair says that this is not an economic attitude, this is about the environmental aspects. However, on the draft, the reason is quite strategic. It is just for meeting the needs of the scrap of the EU countries. And there was this recent Eurofair statement, and in the OECD meeting, I've also stated the same thing. We want to keep European air free. Unless we can evaluate this well, there's no chance for us to keep European air fresh and nice. So Eurofair has a different atmosphere. This is what I understand. It's like world atmosphere is not something that we attach importance altogether. We live in the same world. We'll share this same circumstances. When it's all about exporting scrap to us, they said that we have to keep the atmosphere of the European countries simple and clean. So we made importation, exportation, or production with ore. And how are you going to ask for carbon taxation at border under these circumstances? Because you are triggering these problems. So I want them to be sincere, but they are not sincere in their attitudes. So unfortunately, throughout 25 years of relations with EU countries, it's like they don't have the proper attitude towards us. I want them to be mature enough. However, I can't see that. And in the upcoming months, we're going to go through together these situations. And the 23rd meeting, we're going to be evaluating all these issues. But I'd like to thank you so much for your attention. I wish a very successful meeting for all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Veysel. Any questions for the president? Do we have a question? Mike, please. My name is Ibrahim Korkut. I am curious about one thing. Steel producers in Turkey, in terms of the energy price percentage. So what is the situation with the world energy price? How is it, like 25% in Turkey, 30% in the world? But of course, Russia is an exception here. So in the EU, this is closer to us. Natural gas was like $1,400, but in the EU it was like $1,900. And right now it's like $900 to $1,000. It recessed down to that level. But as of this month, I believe there's going to be a decrease on the natural gas price. Compared to other sectors, we produce more. We consume more. That's why we pay more in the natural gas. In the electricity, it was $35. But right now, $22. So there are some who produce from the solar energy. If the upper limit is 35, now 15 is paid. But for the others, in coal, for instance, they pay 22 out of it. So, and the rest of it, what is going on with that? We want it to be used for household. How are we going to find this money? Who asked this to us? Who wanted to have some support for the household? So actually we are even beyond than EU countries. So for many years, compared to EU countries, we were like head to head to EU countries. Sometimes we were cheaper than them, but as it seems to me that European countries can't buy natural gas from Russia. We can buy from Russia, but it's not advantageous for us. So other sectors and household energy, this is enabled thanks to us, but we said that we can't support this. So when you compare it with the world, do we have a percentage-wise difference? Like the cost in Turkey could be 25%, and in the world it could be 30%. Is there a difference like that? Okay, let me rephrase it. I'm not informed about the details. I don't want to give you wrong information, but I can tell you that $650 or $70 is like the cost. And India sells it to Turkish market by $580, $590. So some of it comes from dumping, some of it is because of energy. So there's like $75 to $80 because of the energy. By the way, these numbers are not clear. We need to have a look at the details. It's like 40% cheaper energy that they use in Gulf countries. In Middle Eastern countries, they don't have such problems. In Russia, there's no such a problem. Only and in the USA, there is no such a problem as well. So USA has become the most profitable with the Russia in this Russian-Ukrainian war. So there are new investments, billions of dollars of new investments. Yes, we're going to have a new alternative at our hands, but under these harsh conditions, I don't think that we are going to prefer having investments, but we have to make new investments. If you allow me, I'd like to make a comment. In 2021, unfortunately, there was a subvention of the state in natural gas. It is way lower than the normal. Well, is this the price that should be? No, it is way higher than the normal price, because in some sectors, EU has some low courts, low cases for the anti-dumping. They are interrogating the natural gas prices, whether this is what it should be, or else this is lower or higher than what it should be. Do you want for subvention for asking lower energy prices, or else is it really higher expenditure? Okay, let me say this. Steel sector as of 2021 has not received any help from the state. We have agreements with the state. From time to time, some institutions say that no, this is a danger zone. We don't want to be diving at that zone. We don't want to be against the free trade investment, other free trade agreement. Otherwise, we might have some problems. So in the past, in some energy inputs, if there were sales lower than Turkish expenditures, this is not our problem, by the way. We did not have such demands in the past. This is the problem of those who were keen on doing such things. But of course, this is not our problem. This is not our responsibility. I mean, nobody gave us an explanation. Household was given 6 times lower prices than what we were given. And we said that household energy expenditure support was a requirement of being a social state, and industrialists were not to be the ones for supporting that. Yes, there is a need of the household, and the industrialists let them pay for it. Yes, we are in that situation. In the past, it was not like that. They were paying lower, and in the anti-dumping interrogations, if the Turkish government was responsible for some lower prices, of course, it could be interrogated, but if we sell it for 7 cents, if you produce it for 2 cents, but if it's not like that in the EU countries, because in recent years, renewable energy prices are very lower as well. So I don't think that we could be subject to dumping law cases. But in Russia, this is the situation. We're going to be seeing the details. What amount is from the dumping? What amount is from the low energy? There could be certain superiorities, natural superiorities. Comparative superiorities can't be explained with dumping. Okay. Let me make you another explanation. In SteelOrbis, our friends make some estimations. According to their estimations, like India and China, $47, $49 is the energy price per ton. In Turkey, it's like 3 times higher than that. Sorry to interrupt, but I needed to say that. Any further questions? I guess we don't have any questions, but let me ask you a very brief question. I'd like to consult your opinion. My last question. Well, you have also applied at some state institutions, but you have not received desired outcome. So we had a meeting with the Russian delegation, and even Russians were asking for tax exemptions. So are we alone as a sector? What can you say? Well, we have to understand this meeting. Turkey and Russia have some special relations. It's not specific to steel. We have a very widespread, very broad relations, and Turkey has assumed huge responsibilities. Russian steel producers and Russian governments might have asked for this because of the good relations. So I don't believe that our ministry approved it, and I don't think it's going to be approved in the future, but this is crystal clear. The Russians can't get benefit of that. In recent times, they have received a great deal of help and made exportation to Turkey, and this spoiled our balance, like in the long steel and also flat steel. It has happened like that. This is not acceptable. Russia is a problematic exportation resource for us. It's not only for us, it's for those other countries as well. But other countries have some differentiating situations, whether they are in the sanctions list or not. But I know that some institutions are obeying these sanctions. Some of them are a bit more comfortable, or whether there's going to be problems for those who are comfortable, we'll see it in the future. Thank you very much.